So we like climbed on top of a wind turbine that was like 300 feet tall on the top of a mountain, and we like visited like nanotechnology labs, and let's see, that's me, that's Erica, and like just and spent. I had a rocket scientist as an intern for a week, which is pretty crazy. Like this, like an actual, it was actually sort of a jet propulsion engineer, because it wasn't technically a rocket that he was making. He wanted to come and like figure out what we were about, so he like worked with us for a week. I'd like brought him to pitches. I'd like bring him over to Google and like, you know, and be like, this is our rocket scientist intern. This is crazy. Okay, so I don't know how to pause this. So that thing with the face, actually, I'm working on some software to do like outdoor installations, sort of based on this. But basically, they made that for the government, and it's like, how do I explain this? Computers can't spot abnormal human behavior. Like they don't. We haven't, you know, we don't have the technology to figure out how if somebody's like being weird, but like that thing that you saw with the cone on the guy's face, we have the technology to recognize somebody's face and do sort of like a 3D mapping so that we know where you're looking. And so if I'm acting really weird and I'm in a crowd, the computer knows that everybody that walks past me looks at me funny, because humans are really good at like kind of just spotting like sort of abnormalities. So like they've developed this software that notices that everybody's looking at that guy, and so then they just like call a cop and they're like, go talk to that guy, you know. So we saw all this insane stuff that they're just like focusing on, so that they're like selling it to the military and not telling anyone about it. But it's like this really amazing thing that you could use for in all these sort of creative ways too. And so basically we're using what normally would be sort of an internal sort of research project as an external public-facing sort of exploration, and we're sort of journaling the whole thing online as we go. It's public, so everybody can see it, but more importantly, everyone at GE can see it, and they know that everybody else can see it. So the things that we talk about and we write down our ideas on the blog for marketing, and so the things that we talk about publicly move faster in terms of like, you know, new business projects than they would normally, because we have like this sort of public motivation sort of behind it, you know. So we're like sort of unsticking them from their fears about social media. That's pretty interesting. And so there's like projects that are coming out of this, and it's like, you know, so, but that's just a thing. And so then this is my pretty project. Any questions, by the way, so far? No? Wait. Okay, great. And this one's it's for HBO, and I'm assuming you have HBO here, right? It's like yeah, okay. So they have really great shows like Sopranos and like, you know, all that stuff. So they're really good storytellers. They have their own content. They show other people's movies. They wanted to do a brand campaign. We worked with BBDO, the U.S. agency, on this, and they had done another campaign with this sort of outdoor projection installation thing a couple years ago. And they wanted to do a campaign that was about HBO and about storytelling, but that didn't actually feature, you know, any of their content, you know. So we're going to make new content. But basically what we figured was like, they make like some of the best content in the world, so we can't just like do an ad that's suddenly going to be as good as The Sopranos or something like that, you know. And so we decided that we were going to make sort of a story experience that was sort of about storytelling, that was like kind of this, you know, interactive like dissection of what a story sort of is, you know, and that we were going to do something that nobody had seen before. So this is the first part of it, and it's a really terrible picture. But it's an outdoor installation that was in Manhattan. And those are two sides of a cube, and it was basically this big sort of projection box, and you could walk around, and there was like different angles of the same scene on each side, you know. So it was like a bunch of short films that you could see from different angles, and the context of the story changed as you sort of walked around, which is pretty cool. So then we did, so this is really the super interesting part. Maybe you could turn the lights on a little bit because it's kind of dark. And I can bring this up actually on the internet and show you, because I think the internet's pretty good here. But so what we did was we made this, we basically took all the scenes from the story and like exploded it into this sort of universe, and you can like, and then we connected all the scenes and bits of content back to each other by context, you know. So if this character shows up in this other scene, there's like sort of a link between that, you know. And if like there's like something gets stolen, there's like a robbery, and so then the stolen item appears in this other scene. They're linked. You can see kind of there's these little lines. Maybe you can't see. And then we kind of made it a game where like you can sort of track your progress, you know, as you've like kind of explored through this universe. And there's like, I don't know, like 45 minutes of video content, and like shot with a really high-end production company, and like Nomura directed it, and we had like really good writers and everything. And it's like this really big budget sort of interactive story sort of experience, and it's been, so far it's been really popular. But the cool thing about this is that is like HBO is a big brand, you know, and if they're going to do something that's sort of marketing about storytelling, you know, that they should do something that's really impressive that, you know, nobody else could do, you know. Like our competition for content like this is YouTube and user-generated content, and I actually don't really believe in sort of bringing user-generated content into sort of the world of like big brand marketing, like for the most part, because I think it's actually the responsibility of big brands to sort of act like big brands and to do big things and to spend their money, their big marketing budgets, on doing stuff that nobody else could ever pull off. You know, nobody's going to do this on this scale as like an art project, you know, a personal art project or something like that. It's up to people like HBO to like sort of bring this stuff into the world, because it's not commercial. Like you couldn't like sell this, like at least currently, as like a, you know, a feature film, you know. But it's actually, it costs as much as a feature film almost. You know, it's a marketing campaign, but they spent a lot of money on it, you know. Yeah, let's see if I can get it. It's fun to play with. Yeah, here we go. There's some other shirts. Some Energy Star ratings are a farce.